You're listening to the Platform Launchers podcast. I'm John Stange, and it's great to have you with us as always this week because we're talking about building and growing and monetizing your online platform. We're talking about taking your passion, turning it into a platform, and helping that become your paycheck. And I get excited to talk about this each and every week. We always have robust discussions with our membership community. We call that membership community our members club. I record live each week together with our group. And it's such a fun thing to hear all the wins and different things that those that are in our group are experiencing. And we want to let you know that if you ever want to join us as part of the group, you could stop at platformlaunchers.com and you can take a 14-day free trial of our membership community. And that'll give you access to our video vault, and it'll give you access to our live training and just access to our community as well. And it's always good to be networked with a lot of platform developers and entrepreneurs and people that talk our language, because our language isn't normal speak. There aren't a lot of people in my day-to-day life, and probably aren't a lot of people in your day-to-day life, that talk about what it means to build, grow, and monetize an online platform. I was actually listening to somebody online earlier today who had a thought in his mind about 6 years ago that he wanted to reinvent what his day-to-day life looked like. And he realized that for him to do that, he needed to start focusing on things that would free up his time. And as he was even thinking about that, he realized that it was an online platform, an online business that was probably going to help him achieve the goals that he was aiming for. And for a group of years, he just kept plugging away at building that. And by God's grace, it's doing well for him, and he's excited about the results that he's seeing. And that's the things that just get excited about here in our membership community here inside Platform Launchers. And so if you get the opportunity to take the test drive, I'd encourage you to do so for 2 weeks. You could do it for free. You'll find the info over at platformlaunchers.com. And this week, I want to just talk for a moment about the idea of playing the long game when it comes to building your platform or building your business. A lot of people in this world are not long-term thinkers. Those of us that I think tend to succeed at online platform development probably tend to fall into the category of being long-term thinkers. But that's our theme this week. And I want you to just think about the benefits of long-term thinking when it comes to really building anything you're trying to build. A little story to kind of illustrate some of the concepts I'm going to be talking about this week. And it's a story actually about a dog. And maybe I'll just start off with a question. Have you ever tried to make friends with a dog that was kind of on the timid side? You know, a dog that was a little skittish around people. I think that probably sounds like a strange question, maybe. But I have found myself in a position to do that multiple times recently. I'll tell you about one of those experiences. Each year on the day after Thanksgiving, and we have done this for decades, we make a point to visit my wife's aunt and uncle. They don't live too terribly far from where we live here in Pennsylvania. They're in New Jersey. It's a little less than an hour away from us. And the day after Thanksgiving, they always do something really nice for the family. They host a nice meal for everybody. And we don't get to see them on Thanksgiving Day, but it's kind of like a second Thanksgiving because they host that after Thanksgiving meal. So they host a nice meal for everyone. They put out a really nice spread. They invite us all over, and we just get together and spend some time catching up. And it's been a tradition that we followed now. I would say, I mean, almost 30 years I've been plugged into that and enjoying it. So it's nice to experience, and I always look forward to it. And in fact, not long ago, and this was kind of a change to the tradition, they moved into a new home. And then soon after moving into a new home, they got a new dog. So a lot of changes took place in their life and in a short period of time. And we were excited to meet the new dog. We met the new dog about 2 years ago. And when you take a quick look at the dog, it becomes pretty obvious that something happened to that dog somewhere during the course of its early life. The dog's not very old, but you look at the dog and you start noticing a few things. And one of the things that tends to stand out pretty quickly is the fact that one of her ears is damaged and it doesn't sit correctly. So you see that on the dog, and it becomes obvious that, again, some sort of trauma happened in this dog's life. And my understanding is that sometime before they adopted this pet, She was rescued out of an abusive situation and was just put in a position where she could be adopted by a new family. Oh, my wife's aunt and uncle really felt compassion for this dog and decided to adopt this dog, and they've been doing a great job of helping that dog to acclimate to life in their home and as part of their family. The dog's been adjusting really well, but as you can imagine, when they have company, the dog becomes very timid. The dog becomes very skittish. It tends to be hesitant around the company. It doesn't always want to interact with people that it's unfamiliar with. And obviously, it comes back to the fact that sometime earlier in this dog's life, it experienced some level of trauma, unfortunately, at the hands of a human, is what we understand that to be the case. And I can imagine, when a lot of company comes and visits, that can be a lot for the dog to take in, especially when you're used to living with a quiet older couple, and then all of a sudden, just in the span of a minute, your house goes from being quiet to then being filled with a dozen or so new people, and these new people that come in are all ages. So you have young people that are full of energy and they've got lots of volume and they're running around and they're doing all sorts of things, and you've got people at other seasons of life as well. And typically, especially when young people see a dog, you could kind of imagine where this is going. They tend to swarm that dog. They want that dog's attention. They want to do something fun. They want to start running around or playing with toys or whatever they can get the dog to do. And so that dog gets swarmed as soon as all of us enter into that house. And I have noticed that during those moments, as we come into their house, as we visit with my wife's aunt and uncle, that their dog does the best that it can do to just avoid people. It's not rude. It's not aggressive. It's not like that. It doesn't take that kind of posture, but it just does the best that it can to avoid people. And so the dog will start hiding under the table. The dog will start walking into empty rooms where company can be avoided. At the same time that that's happening, though, I've noticed, especially over the past few years, as a rapport has been developed, that this dog has started to feel really comfortable around me. Now, that took some work on my part, but I took the long game toward earning this dog's trust. And so I'm going to share with you what I do, and you're going to see, I think, a pretty immediate business application here. But when we visit, for starters, I don't join the crowd that's pouncing on that dog and begging for the dog's attention. I just hold back. I just relax. I let everyone else get that out of their system. I don't bother the dog. I let the dog try and hide from everybody and acclimate to all the noise and all the activity. And then once that subsides and the dog at places, typically what I do after things settle down a little bit, I usually walk over to the dog somewhere along the way, and I don't attempt to pet her or do anything like that, but I'll just leave her just a little bite to eat. Whatever we're enjoying as a meal, I'll just take a little piece and I'll put it over by where the dog is, and then I'll leave. The dog sees it there, and I'll just kind of walk away, and I'll go back and let the dog enjoy that without me hovering over her, and remind the dog, "Hey, I see you. I'm here as a friend. Here's a little treat. Let me get out of your way." And then somewhere along the way, as the evening progresses, I'll take it a little step further. And I'll usually go back to where the dog is sitting, and I'll join it by just sitting in the room somewhere, not immediately upon the dog, right? Not right next to the dog, but I'll just sit down in the same room, and I'll sit down on the floor so that the dog realizes that, just by looking at my posture, that she can relax around me, that I'm not taking an aggressive posture. I'm not trying to stand over the dog or hover over the dog. And I usually just sit there somewhere in the room. And I've noticed that after giving the dog a little treat, and then after joining the dog and sitting on its level, that she usually lets me pet her at that point. And then afterward, when I go back to the table where I'm sitting with my wife and family, she'll usually walk out to the table and join us at the table, where she will sit underneath the table, typically by my feet. And it's a pattern that's repeated every time we visited her aunt and uncle, my wife's aunt and uncle, since they got this new dog. And I tell that story because as I was thinking about it this week, I realized that there is so much in that has a parallel to what we do in business. I think building a business or building an online can have a very similar process. I think, by the way, it's true in both the brick and mortar world and in the online worlds. I think you have to be willing to play the long game, like I am in building a rapport with this dog. You have to be willing to play the long game if your business or if your platform is going to succeed. And what you do is you learn to enjoy the incremental successes you see along the way, but we really need to keep our eyes focused on the long-term outcomes. Now, when building a rapport with our aunt and uncle's dog, there's a few things that I mentioned there that I'm doing. And I'm just going to recap those things, and you're going to see how I tie this into what we're talking about when it comes to our businesses. But first of all, I start off by patiently waiting for the right time to approach that timid animal. I patiently wait for the right time to approach that timid animal. Secondly, I then share a treat with that dog so she knows I'm her friend. I share something of value. I share a treat with her. Third, I then spend some time on her level. So I'll sit down on the floor with her. I'll spend time with her on her level so she learns to see me as someone who is safe and relatable and able to be trusted. And then the fourth thing I do is once I earn her trust, I welcome her to join me at the table, and I let her know that I'm glad that she's there. If she wants to be pet, I pet her gently. I think even in some ways she probably prefers the fact that in sitting there, she's protected from all the younger children that are in the family. She could just sit in a more calm environment where people aren't likely to disturb her. But once I earn her trust, I welcome her at the table, and I remind her the whole time, look, I'm glad you're here. Isn't that the same approach that successful online entrepreneurs make use of, or some version of that? You know, when you think through those four things that I'm actually doing to try and build rapport with that animal, right? It's very similar to what we do online. Successful entrepreneurs do some version of this. They don't rush into people's spaces unannounced and then take an aggressive posture. They wait for the right time to build connections. They wait for the right time to build relationships. They share solutions to their clients' problems. They spend time on the level of those they're trying to serve. Even if they've been doing whatever they're doing for years and years and years, they're willing to spend time on the level of those they're seeking to help. And then they welcome others to join them at the table once they're ready to do that. They welcome people to spend time with them. They're not chasing people away. They're inviting people to spend time with them. I think that's a good approach. And I think it's an approach that takes deliberate patience if it's going to succeed. And I bring that up because, unfortunately, for many wannabe entrepreneurs, they don't have the patience to play the long game. And if they don't get quick wins, they get discouraged and they quit. And it's very sad to see, because sometimes there are good ideas that just get thrown to the wayside because patience isn't something that most of us, thrive in exhibiting, right? And what ends up happening is you have people comparing the results that they're getting at a very early season of what they're building with their business or their online platform. They compare those results to the results that somebody who's been playing the long game for many, many years is getting, someone that's at a spot of lots of earned momentum. And they look at that and they say, well, it's working like this for this other person, but it's not working like this for me. And they're not comparing their early results to that person's early results. They're comparing their early results to that person's many years deep results. And then they end up talking themselves out of sticking with an idea when if they just stuck with the idea, they could have given it time to truly work. And so I want to point that out, because that's something that maybe if you're listening to the podcast right now, if you're watching our content here on YouTube, maybe that's something that you've wrestled with. Maybe you've even made the mistake of comparing your early results to someone's results after they've been doing something for many, many years. And I want to encourage you, don't do that to yourself, because you're going to discourage yourself. We've got to play the long game. We've got to be patient. We've got to remain persistent at the same time, but you've got to be patient to give things time to work and for trust to be earned. And I want to share a few ideas from others who have spoken on the term about like this idea of just long-term thinking, right? Those that have spoken on this that actually have some background and some merit to what they're saying because of their track record. One of my favorite things to do is to read quotes from people that I consider admirable and successful, or people that have done interesting things in their life, even if I don't really jive with them in certain ways. And I want to share with you 6 quotes about long-term thinking that each look at long-term thinking from a different perspective, but there's something beneficial for us in each of these quotes. I want you to hear each of these. I'm going to read 6 of these for us here. The first one is this. It's from Joshua L. Liebman. And Joshua says this. He says, maturity is achieved when a person postpones immediate pleasures for long-term values. Maturity is achieved when a person postpones immediate pleasures for long-term values. I love that quote because I think most people in this world prefer not to do that. And I think that's why I think that's a major contributor to how a lot of people in this world get themselves in all kinds of trouble. But for us, for those of us that are trying to build online platforms and online businesses, let's think about long-term values, not just immediate pleasures when we're building these things. All right, second quote I want to read for you is from Steve Jobs. If you remember Steve Jobs, he was one of the founders of Apple, and he had something very interesting to say about long-term thinking. He said, if you look really closely, most overnight successes took a long time. If you look closely, most overnight successes took a long time. How true is that? His story is kind of interesting if you've ever heard it. Somebody that some people would say, boy, look at how quickly things grew for Apple. And then you read the backstory of all the different things that he went through and how he even got fired from Apple at one point, and then they begged him to come back because the company was going downhill quickly. And so it's just kind of interesting to look at. But he says if you really look closely, most overnight successes took a long time. Or how about Warren Buffett? Warren Buffett, right now, he's not the richest man in the world, but sometimes he makes it to number 1 on the list. It kind of goes back and forth between a few different names. But Buffett said this. He said, someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. It's a good statement. I've heard varieties or versions of that quote and, spoken by other people, but that's the way Buffett said it. Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. I think of that every time I look out front of my house. There's a beautiful Japanese maple tree. It's a blood good Japanese maple tree, and I planted it there 15 years ago when we first moved in, and it was a stick when I put it in the ground, and now it's a beautiful, mature maple tree right in front of my house, and I love the shade that it produces, and I love the look of it. And Buffett says, look, someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Well, present-day me is grateful that the me of 15 years ago planted a stick in the ground outside our home because now we have a beautiful maple tree to look at every single day. Mike Dooley said this about long-term thinking. He said, the obsession with instant gratification blinds us from our long-term potential. I think that's an interesting quote because sometimes we think, people might just be missing their long-term potential. But Mike Dooley, the way he phrases it, he says, no, they're blinded from their long-term potential because they're obsessed with instant gratification. Don't make that mistake. Most people are making that mistake. Winston Churchill, someone in leadership that I have admired, said this. He says, success is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. Go from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. That's what success is, according to Winston Churchill. And when you think about his story and his life and some of the things that he experienced, he had his ups, he had his downs, but at the same time, by God's grace, he shined when it was time for him to shine. And I think for many of us, if something succeeds in your life, usually there's a history of things that didn't succeed that preceded that success. And Churchill says, look, you got to be willing to go from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm, because eventually the sum of those things, the sum of your learning, the sum of those experiences is going to result in something that will succeed. And you're going to be grateful that you stayed with it long enough to see that spot, that success. One last quote I want to read to you, and I hope it encourages you, and that's this. Garrison Wynn once said, long-term success is the result of relationship built on a foundation of trust. People get more value from those they trust. Let me read that quote again. He says, long-term success is the result of relationship built on a foundation of trust. People get more value from those they trust. It's kind of interesting. Many of us want short-term successes, but is trust typically built in the short term? It's typically built in the long term. And if you can become a trusted ally or a trusted asset for the people that you're trying to serve and help, well, that's going to take some time to build. It's going to take a while to build that sort of trust. Give yourself time to build that kind of credibility, that kind of authority, that kind of trust, because once you've built it, that can go a long way to helping you build your business as you serve other people who now have learned that you are worthy of their trust being placed in you. And if people trust you to help them with something, don't break that trust. It takes a long time to gain the trust, but it doesn't take very long to lose it. Now, while I would love for the business or the platform that you're building to explode with growth right from the start, I'd certainly be happy for you if that happens for anyone listening to our teaching this week, whether on the podcast or on YouTube. I'd love for it to explode for you quickly, but I have to confess that my online platform did not explode quickly for me. It developed over time. It developed gradually. I had to experience gradual, long-term growth that eventually turned into sustainable momentum. That's been the pattern that has been the case with just about everything I've been involved in building or leading during the course of my adult life. It just involved gradual, long-term growth that eventually turned into momentum. I can't think of anything that I've done is stuck around that really, blew up super quickly or blew up immediately. It was all gradual and it was all eventual, but sticking with it really helped. And then eventually it got to the momentum phase. So when I think about the things that I've invested my time in as an adult, I used to direct a conference center. Well, when I took over that conference center, it was in a pretty rough spot. And it didn't explode with growth immediately. It grew eventually. It grew gradually. It took years of effort and years of patience before it finally got to a spot where it gained momentum. And then once it gained momentum, it was in a much better spot, but it took time. It took building trust. It took building relationships. It took following through on things that I told people I was going to do. And before I knew it, that conference center was at a spot where it had momentum and it grew. Or the churches that I've led, it's been the same pattern with them. Their growth was gradual, not overnight, but given enough time, they gained momentum. I believe that the same will be true for the new digital media major that I'm leading at Cairn University. It was just launched this fall, so we're in the first month of that major being offered at the university, and I'm leading that for the university. But obviously, since it just started, it doesn't have the momentum yet that I hope that it has at year 3 and year 5 and year 7. But do I believe that it's going to get to that spot of momentum? Absolutely. I absolutely believe that, but I think it'll be gradual, and I think it's going to come as trust gets earned. So let me finish up by saying this. If you're building an online platform, keep these principles and keep these examples in mind. Stay patient and stay persistent. Give your idea time to work. Plant the tree now so that you can sit in the shade of that tree a few years from now. You're going to be really glad. Future you is going to be really glad for the work and the time and the patience that you invested now in what you're building, because when it starts bearing fruit, you're going to look back and you're going to be grateful for all the time and all the effort that you put into it right now. A few quick things before we finish up. Like I said at the start of this week's episode, we invite you to stop by platformlaunchers.com, where you can take a free 14-day test drive of our membership community, which is called the Members Club. You get free access to all our Video Vault library of all kinds of training that we've done on these live calls and all our guest expert calls and so many useful things there. You also get access to our community and access to our live training for those 2 weeks. And you can see if you like it and you want to stay a long-term member, we'd certainly welcome you to be part of it. In fact, we'd love that to be the case. And we have something else for you at platformlaunchers.com. We have a 21-day platform development planning guide. You can download it free at platformlaunchers.com, and it'll help you figure out your idea for your online platform. If you're looking to put something together, but you're not sure what it should look like, that planning guide will give you a great head start. And again, it's free at platformlaunchers.com. But that's it for us this week. Thank you so much for being with us this week, as always. And we look forward to catching up with you again right here next time. Take care.